because I'm waiting for the bits to come in. Oh, no, Lewis. I forgot the tweet. Lewis.
Shocker.
That's all right. I'm going to do it on the fly. We got some bits coming in.
My God, are you live tweeting?
I think the bits are coming in. And we're live. But we all know that no one's going to come here until I get the tweet going out here. So I'm going to do it on the fly. While everyone pours in. To you? While everyone's pouring in. Why tens of thousands of you are pouring in. Let's go ahead. Oh, I'm reusing the title, Lewis, on Cultcast Live.
See it.
You want the tweet as per usual. You know what I think about you and the tweet. I'm not sure you can handle it.
I love looking at Twitter. It's like it's always a giant distraction. Why is Captain Kangaroo trending? How can I not click on that?
Oh, Captain Kangaroo. It's probably one of Tim Cook's favorite characters.
I don't understand when they. Yeah.
Okay, Lewis, it's going out.
Okay.
2 booms, 1 episode. Yeah, although I see no chats coming in. So if you guys are chatting, I apologize. I can't see it yet. I have no idea why. So if you're
flying blind.
Yeah, it's very possible because that's very unusual. In fact, I'm not sure that's ever happened unless there's been a significant problem. So, oh yeah, something weird's going on with the data. But you know what?
Dear.
It's fine. We're just going to pretend everything's cool, Lewis. And, oh, yeah, the concurrent viewers are jumping all over the place.
Pretend everything's cool.
let's just ignore.
No, trust us. It's fine.
Let's just ignore all the warning signs and proceed as though everything is fine. I don't see anyone in the chat, though, which I do find to be very... Oh, wait, here we go. We got Mark Lapointe here. Dom Lopez is here. He says, Papa E. Enjoy those HomePods. You know I will, my friend. Frosty the Beer Man. What is this? Your alias in here? Are you in here, Lewis, under an alternate name? It says, take your jacket off. Stay a while. I never do because there's just bare chest under this jacket. Chris B says, HomePod 2. Let's go. I'm getting a second HomePod. I'd love to know how well it talks to the original. Well, Eric Peter Carlson, I hate to tell you this, but it does not. So you better pick up a second HomePod if you want studio pairs. If you want a big old nice studio pair, Lewis.
That sounds off color.
Only in your mind, you sick. How's the 50 caliber nip, Seraphon? Well, RIP. They burst yesterday afternoon when I saw the news. So I'm looking for plastic surgeons in the Seattle area. Let me know if you hear of any that are good at nip reconstruction. We got Betty Rise. Hello from Florida. Oh, save me a spot. I think I need to move there. Okay. I think we're ready to roll. I know I'm excited. We're a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties. You got a new mixer going on. We got a new guy right here. Let's see if I can grab him.
Look at him. Just look at him.
Look at him floating down there. Yes, his face is not moving. That's just a picture because we couldn't get it working. Dipsy Doo saying the YouTube return. Oh yeah, I think it's time. It's only been 2 years. I accidentally took a 2-year break from YouTube. I'm using a brand new mixer, so let's hope this all works. I tested it all yesterday. Everything seems like it's working, but you never know. I mean, let's see here. There is one thing I need to make sure it's working, Lewis.
Oh, dear.
69, dude.
I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be just fine, Lewis. All right.
What a great omen.
Let's queue up everything. And let's get this show rolling. Oh, Mrs. D. Oh, Mrs. D, you're awfully chipper. Oh, yes. I saw the announcement for the new HomePods. Oh, yeah. Are you excited about that? Oh, yes. I plan to play some sensual music while I make love to El Caney. Oh, God. Gross. Studio pair for that. Oh, I'm going to show him my studio pair. Oh, God. Stereo pair. Sorry. Lewis seems unamused. All right, let's get this thing rolling. We got a lot to talk about. If you don't mind, Mrs. D, I know you like to talk about El Caney, but we got a lot of Apple news to talk about. So let's get this show rolling in 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to Cultcast, the best 30-minute Apple conversation you can hear all week long. I'm your host, Eric Elijah. Join me today. Many say he's the toughest editor in tech. In fact, it says so on the gold Cultimac ring he wears on his pinky. And if you don't get your story in on time, you get a nice imprint of that ring right on your forehead. He's the managing editor of Cultimac. Lewis Wallace is here.
No rings. No rings.
Took it off for the show.
Ringless.
Also with us, he's a wily one. He's a new Cultimac writer, and somehow he escaped the writing cage to join us here in today's program. Lewis Wallace is furious. He got through the new laser net. I literally only know his first name. Griffin is here.
Hello. The reason I don't have video is because I've got quite a big black eye from that gold ring. Right? You got me right on the face.
He already imprinted it in your face?
We can't have visual evidence.
Well, I'm sure it has nothing to do with your performance. You haven't been with us long enough, but he does just like to hit people with it. So, welcome to Griffin. Griffin is new Cultimac writer, as I mentioned, and we tried to get his video working, but we just could not get it working. We think he's having a Mac issue or maybe an internet issue or possibly both issues. In either case, he's just having issues. So it
couldn't possibly be the 8-year-old computer that I have.
I suspect that might have something to do with it. 2015, those are good machines. I remember my 2015, man. So
I remember when it was the last good one.
I was just going to say that. Like, it was like one of the last great Macs before they took off all the ports and did everything. That was a really beautiful machine. I used to own one of those, but I've had a few machines since then, and it's time, I think, for you to upgrade as well. But so we'll do audio only for Griffin. But look at that lovely picture that we have of him there, smiling. He looks so handsome. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Man, out of nowhere. I mean, just out of the blue, we got new MacBook Pros. We got the new Mac Mini. We have the new HomePods. I mean, who saw that coming?
Yeah, that was a shocker.
My nips have where they were at double diamonds, which is a rare level of is a rare state for those nips. I've been around in tech a long time. They rarely reach double diamonds, but they did, and then just
ruined my favorite slot machine.
The double diamonds.
The double diamond. Now I'll never think of it the same.
Well, that's arguably a good thing. So we'll talk about all that stuff. But let me see here before we dive in. Oh shoot, let me bring up my browser here. Before we dive in, we have to give a very hearty thank you to Squarespace for supporting this episode. Squarespace.com/cultcast, because it's 2023 and you're a major slacker. You've been listening to me talk about Squarespace for years. You still haven't done anything, and you're ready to get your life in order. You're ready to start that website that you have been talking about. You started a new business, and no one knows that you're there because you don't have a website. And if you head on over to Squarespace, you can start a website of various kinds. You can literally do it all with Squarespace. You can grow your business online. You can have a multi-$1,000 empire like Cult Cloth that I grew purely on Squarespace, and the checks just keep coming in, Lewis. The checks just keep coming on in. Maybe you have a great product idea. Maybe you want to start a membership website where you do membership stuff. People pay for a membership. They can book your calendar. You can teach them how to do things. If only I had a skill that I could teach, Lewis, that would really make the difference in my life. I could be a coach, just charge people to coach them on stuff.
Life coach.
That sounds like something that I would enjoy, honestly. I just tell them what to do, and they pay me $400 an hour to do it, at least, minimum. And you can start an online store. You can promote your local business, build a portfolio, a blog, just highlight your resume online. I mean, you really can do it all. And it's so easy to make a Squarespace website. It will take you mere moments. It will look uniquely yours. There's no code or anything. Everything's drag and drop, beautiful, easy to use. If you're ready to get started, if you're ready to stop being a slacker, Mr. Strickland warned me about guys like you. If you're ready to stop being a slacker like George McFly, head on over to squarespace.com/cultcast, squarespace.com/cultcast. Build a website, see how you like it. If you like what you have after the trial, use code cultcast at checkout. You'll save 10% off your first purchase, and you can get a free domain name and a year and a additional discount if you do a year of service like I do. And it really makes it a great deal. Squarespace.com/cultcast, and the offer code to use at checkout is cultcast. All right, who's going first?
I wonder.
I've actually lost the notes. So, I'm
really?
going first. All right.
That's another great omen, man. That's 2 omens.
It's 2 bad omens in a row. We're going to turn it around from here. Oh, no, we're saving that for last. we're saving that for last. We're going to talk about the MacBook Pros first, because I'm sure you're all wondering about the MacBook Pros. These, of course, are going to be the most popular products. And if I just had to sum it up in two words, Lewis, spec bump. It's a spec bump, guys. If you don't have a MacBook Pro, then I think that this is something that I would definitely consider if you're looking to get a new MacBook Pro. But if you already have one that's, I don't know, relatively new, I would probably skip this generation. In fact, let's see here. We have a Mac Rumors article that basically just show you the difference between the 2021 and 2022 MacBook Pros. And this is kind of all you need to know. I mean, the 2023 MacBook Pro, M1 Pro or M2 Max Pro chips, obviously you knew that. Up to 12-core CPU, up from 10 from the 2021 MacBook Pro. Let's see here. Up to 10-core, 12-core CPU. Oh, no, I'm losing my place. Sorry. 19-core GPU with the M2 Pro, up to 38-core GPU with the M2 Max. And that's up from 16-core GPU in the M1 Pro, or up to 32-core GPU on the M1 Max. You can take the memory up to 96 gigabytes on the 2023, which is way massive, crazy overkill for 98% of people. I don't even think you need 64 gigabytes, let alone 96. But if you have a need for that, then the 2023 MacBook Pro is the one for you. The 2023 MacBook Pro has the fastest Wi-Fi 6E built in, which is up to 2.5 gigabits per second. So it's crazy fast. I think that's a full gigabit per second faster than the Wi-Fi 6 on the 2021 MacBook Pro. So way faster Wi-Fi. That's not nothing, right? You get Bluetooth 5.3 versus Bluetooth 5 for the 2021 MacBook Pro. You get HDMI 2.1, which it's hard to believe that Apple finally made the jump, and you can support up to 244 hertz refresh rate with the HDMI port now, which is even faster than the Thunderbolt port on the MacBook Pro. I think Thunderbolt 4 can handle up to 40 gigabits per second, and HDMI 2.1 can handle up to 43 gigabits per second. So it's now the fastest display port on your, not display port, but the display space ports on the MacBook Pro. Now, Apple says that the battery life has improved, but I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a gimmick because they specifically are measuring video playback time with the screen at a specific brightness. And so it's only measuring that, like real world usage, like using the web, doing stuff in Logic, Final Cut Pro. I don't actually think you're going to see that much of a difference. And they say
22 hours?
Well, they say 22 hours with the 16-inch MacBook Pro, but the 2021 MacBook Pro 16-inch was 21 hours. So it's a small increase. And again, when they say 21 hours, they're speaking specifically about video playback.
Still.
You know what I mean? So who watches videos for 21 hours and nothing else besides El Caney?
Well,
I mean, if you're El Caney, this is a big upgrade because now you get to just do nothing for 1 hour extra. But for the rest of us who are actually making stuff, I don't know. So again, my opinion, spec bump. It's a spec bump, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I think it's a great machine if you don't already have one and you need to upgrade. But if you can wait, I would definitely wait, and we'll tell you why here in just a second. But before we do, Griffin, new guy, any thoughts on the new MacBook Pros?
It is just a spec bump, but that's really great news. I mean, no, it means that no matter
we got
when
Apple
you need
marketing
to buy,
spin right there. It's only spec bump, but that's a good thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Look, it means that no matter what time of the year you need to buy a new MacBook Pro, you can always buy a great MacBook Pro, and you don't have to feel bad waiting because you know if you've waited for this, it's going to be like 20 to 40% faster from what you could buy last week. If you need to buy one today, it's great. It's just like it was 10 years ago when they would update these computers like on an actually regular schedule. Remember how wonderful that was?
I do remember those days. It seems like many years ago.
Now that they have their silicon in their own hands, they can just do these updates whenever they're ready, and they know exactly when they're going to be ready because they make them themselves, presumably. So it's great. You get if you needed a MacBook Pro last week, well, now the one that you buy this week is going to be 20 to 40% faster based on what you do.
I'm glad that you said that. I unbelievably forgot that detail, but yeah, they will be faster, and I don't know about 40% faster. And depending on what tasks you're doing, maybe you'll get up to like 40% faster performance. I fully expect, like, in real world performance, single core, you might get like a 15 to 20% spec bump, and then in multi-core, you might get something like 25, 30%. That seems to be the way that they're going with these kinds of spec bumps. Now, the one thing I will mention is, and I think that this is definitely worth discussing. Oh, that's cool. Man, Apple really does have like the best product promotion website stuff. Like no one's got it beat. This is still the 5 nanometer process. Now, there are stories that we've read that Apple was getting ready to move to 3 nanometers with TSMC, but they couldn't get it working in time, and so they stuck with 5 nanometers. And
you're missing one detail.
Oh,
It
what's
is the advanced 5 nanometer process.
Right.
Yeah, quote unquote. So
What does that
improved.
mean?
Yeah.
Who knows?
4.5
Well, I
nanometers.
mean, apparently it means they were able to pack more transistors on the chip, which, you know, is fine. But I think that if they're only packing more transistors of the same size on the same chip, they're going to be. This is just a prediction. We'll see if this is true. I think they're going to have serious heat problems with this chip. I mean, the 14-inch MacBook Pro is, well, of the M1 variety, already had serious performance issues versus the 16-inch. And it was thermal throttling like crazy. The 16-inch didn't thermal throttle because the cooling system was so much better than the 14-inch, but the 14-inch had problems. And so a spec'd out 14-inch MacBook Pro was performing about the same as a baseline 16-inch MacBook Pro, according to all the tests that MaxTech did, which was one of the reasons why I returned it, and I ended up getting a 16-inch MacBook Pro. And I think this version of MacBook Pro, the M2 Max and the M2 Pro, are going to be even worse because they packed more transistors onto the chip, but the transistors are the same size. So now they're just generating more heat, and they're probably going to overclock this to get a little bit more performance out of here. So you may see a pretty substantial difference in performance between the 16-inch and the 14-inch. And the 14-inch and even the Mac Mini, I think may thermal throttle like crazy, meaning that you're going to be paying for all this performance that you literally will never see unless you're just doing short bursts of work. But if you have any kind of like sustained work, like you're exporting a video or something, I suspect this is going to be another, if you want it to work right, you have to put it in your freezer situations.
We'll have to see about the Mac Mini, because the thing about the old Mac Mini, and we'll talk about this more when we get to that segment, but the old Mac Mini had so much space inside that case, like just volumetrically. Like the logic board was like pushed up in a tiny little corner, and then the rest of that box was just empty. So we'll have to wait until the iFixit teardown to see how much beefier the cooling system is on the Mac Mini. But
I hope you're right about that. I really hope you're right. That would actually be a pleasant surprise if it performed at its full potential. We got Fieldy in the chat saying you can't see it, but Griff has the old TC squint going on. It doesn't sound like he's getting awful squinty over there, doesn't it, Lewis? As he's making his points, I can see it. He's just like, ugh. But no one gets as squinty as TC. We all know that.
There's no way to know. Maybe that's I'm trying to give him a run for his money.
Once we get video going, we'll get that going.
Squint shall be
That's why I'm
revealed.
hoping that I'm right about the Mac Mini too, because that's the computer I'm going to buy, and hopefully that's the computer that will allow me to have video.
Yeah, and arguably, I think the new Mac Mini is the more exciting of the announcements they made. I mean, aside from HomePod, obviously. I mean, but the Mac Mini, that new Mac Mini is extremely powerful. It can edit 8K. You can fully spec that thing out so that I think in some ways it's actually better than the Mac Studio. In fact, there's a lot of weird similarities between the two. And if you want, you can get one for, well, they lowered the price, didn't they? From $699 to $599 for the base. And if you have an EDU discount, you can get it for $499. And that base Mac Mini is, I know everyone's saying it, so I hate to say it too, but it really is an absolutely crazy value. It is an extremely powerful machine, and if you already have a keyboard and a monitor that you can pair it with, then it's the one to go for if you don't need the portability. It's going to be an absolute video editing powerhouse, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So, summarizing, MacBook Pro, it's a spec bump, but if you need something now, I think that I would definitely go for this. Although I think there is an argument to be made for getting a refurbished M1 MacBook Pro now that they're going to be a little bit cheaper, because the M1 Max MacBook Pro is going to be faster than anything you need it for. I mean, they're making the M2 faster, but really, unless you're doing something that is mission critical and you're trying to save like man hours or something, I think the M1 Max refurbished is probably going to be a better way to go, because they're just so similar. There are not that many differences between the M1 Max and the M2 Max MacBook Pro, aside from extra heat and maybe some better performance in a limited capacity. But we'll have to see. I mean, once these things ship, we'll have all the benchmarks and everything like that. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about. Let's see here. What do we got next? Oh, Lewis, I'm sending it your way for even more reasons to maybe not go for the new MacBook Pro.
You're big on the waiting this time, aren't you?
Well, I'm all about Lewis. Look, I'm all about value. I'm a value guy. I'm like, you only got so much money, right? And you got to put it where it makes the most sense. And I generally like the newest, greatest, best. But when you have such a marginal move forward in performance, I'm like, does it make sense to get something that is going to probably perform very similar to the M1 Max due to overheating? Now, that's a guess. I don't know if that's true. And doesn't really have a lot of other big benefits. I mean, the battery life increase that Apple's claiming, it's like, come on. It's not going to be that much different. And so it seems like it would be better to save the money and get the refurbished.
So you're thinking this is like the iPhone 14. Like if you got a 13Y in the world, would you bump up, right?
I see a lot of similarities between the two. Or it'd be like going from an iPhone 13 Pro to an iPhone 14. It's like, it's kind of a lateral move in a lot of ways.
Jeez. Well, okay. Well, if you're on that waiting fence, then 2024 might be the year for you, because as you were mentioning, I mean, recently as last week, we thought that these things might come with 3nm chips, right? Or before, when we thought we were going to be waiting a little while for these MacBooks, right? Well, it looks like the 3nm chips are going to be here next year.
Yeah.
Yay, right? So, these are made by TSMC. What's that? Taiwan. I can't remember what it means.
Manufacturing
Taiwan
Corporation.
Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, right? Anyway, they make all the chips. The 3nm process that Irfan was talking about earlier has been delayed. Originally, they were going to, happen last year. Didn't happen. But now M3 is coming soon. The M3 chip is coming soon, according to Ming-Chi Kuo, our favorite analyst from TF International Securities. He said Tuesday on Twitter, I expect the next new MacBook Pro models, which will adopt M3 Pro, M3 Max processors made by 3nm, blah, 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 like the TSMC's N3P or N3S, which I have literally no idea what that means, will go to mass production in 1H24, first quarter of 2024. So that means around this time next year, they start cranking these things out, and Apple can start thinking about what laptops they put them in.
Yeah, so, and the new architecture is really going to be the big performance leap, right? Like the smaller nanometer process, they're going to fit way more transistors onto the CPU, and that's going to be when we make a really big leap, probably in both temperature, performance per watt, and then also just pure performance, like single core performance. That's going to be when we see something big happen.
Boom, not the spec bump.
Yeah, it's going to be the spec boom. You really should work for Apple's marketing performance department. That sounds like something that you'd see like on the headline when you're going through. It's like it's a spec boom, not a spec bump. That really is. That's great. And this is gonna be the one that I'm waiting for. Like I thought about upgrading to the M2 Max MacBook Pro, but I'm like, I got the M1 Max. Like there's really no point. I'm barely sweating the M1 Max, so why make the leap now? Especially, I like to keep my NAD temperatures down. I really, going from the Intel to the M1 Max was such an amazing difference in temperature on the bottom of the laptop. I mean, you could barely even use some of the previous generation MacBook Pros, like the Intels, on your lap because they just got so hot. And I don't know if the M2 Max is going to get that much hotter, but I do think it's going to be a substantial change in heat on the bottom of it. So, but we'll have to wait and see. So if
Maybe
you
I should wait one more year.
Don't do it. Jump right in.
I think I don't know if you can wait one more year. I don't even know if you should wait one more week.
I think my house would burn down if I tried to wait more than a few more months.
Yeah. Well, especially considering how many things we have to have open to do this show. It's like, you got to have so much open. It's really pushing the Mac. So let's talk about what I think you're probably going to be moving to here, Griffin. And I think arguably is the more exciting Mac that's coming out of this product launch, and that's the Mac Mini, because it's going to have a huge performance increase, and the price is just ridiculous. And I know you're pretty excited about it, aren't you? Like Lewis told me you've been waiting for this for quite a while.
I've been bothering everybody in the Cult of Mac Slack endlessly for months waiting over this computer. So the secret about this launch is that it's not just one computer, but it's actually two computers.
Okay.
They have a new entry-level Mac Mini with the same N2 processor that we got in the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, the sort of mid-book Pro last summer. That takes the lower slot, even a lower slot than before, because it is now $100 less in this crazy world of supply chain nonsense that probably keeps Tim Cook awake every night. They managed to lower the price $100 back down to $599, which I think is the classic price of the Mac Mini. I think it launched at like $499 in 2004, and then the Intel version raised like $600, and now it's back there again. So it's remained at that constant price for a very long time. And it's even $100 less than that, again, if you, as you mentioned, order it from the education store on Apple's website. I think you just need an edu email address, and you can take home.
How do you get one of those?
The very latest for just like $500. It's crazy.
Because do you know of a website where you can just like rent edu addresses? I think they're pretty hard to come by unless you pay the tuition.
Yeah.
Talk to your favorite teacher.
Well, I got to use my degree for something. So.
Do you still have your edu?
I do. The university I went to doesn't they don't ever revoke it.
They don't cut you off? Oh man, that's worth that alone will save you more than the tuition you pay.
Tim Cook just heard this.
He's getting awful squinty, Lewis.
I can almost hear the squinting from down south.
He does not like losing profit potential. That's one of his least favorite things. Sorry. Go ahead, Griffin. What else you got? What else you thinking?
Oh, sure. So, I believe the entry level Mac Mini, it just gets the M2. We don't know if it. I think a lot of people, myself included, were hoping for a redesign because it has looked exactly the same since, I believe, 2010. It's still that sort of bland aluminum box. But
I think you mean pristine.
Oh, my mistake. It has 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU. That's really all you need for an entry-level machine, and for $500 or $600, no one's ever going to complain about that. Starts at 16 gigabytes of memory, and you can now upgrade it to 24, which is a slightly higher than the M1 before. That maxed out at 16. Up to 50% faster performance in Photoshop compared to M1. When you're doing all your big complicated filters on your massive 48 megapixel photos from your iPhone 14 Pro, better performance there. I don't know who's going to be playing like Resident Evil Village, and all of Apple's like promo videos had them showing like No Man's Sky.
I know they're really pushing that whole you're gonna be a cool gamer on your Mac Mini.
I don't know who they imagine is buying these things to play games, but allegedly you can get 35% faster performance. No one will know because no one will ever test that for the rest of mankind. I believe it has the media engine built into the processor now.
Yeah, it does.
So.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, this thing is pretty much the perfect computer for most content creators. I would skip the M2. I mean, the M2 is too limited in too many ways for me. But obviously it's a great chip if you don't want to spend the extra money. But the fact that both of these chips have the video encoding engine, is going to make them scream for Final Cut Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the measurements that they have on Apple's website. They're comparing everything to a Mac Mini with Core i7. I hate when they do this. But the new Mac Mini with M2 Pro is 18.8 times faster than the Mac Mini with Core i7 in video editing tasks in Final Cut Pro. But the M2 Mac Mini is almost 10 times faster. And it looks like the M2 is probably, I'm just looking at the graph here. It doesn't have a number on it. So it's kind of hard to say exactly what the number is, but it looks to be about 25% faster than the M1, the M2 is. So there's some serious performance increases here in video editing and in video transcoding too. So if I didn't need portability, I would absolutely be getting a Mac Mini for my video editing, because there's not really any reason to get the Mac Studio, in my opinion. Like the Mac Mini, I think will probably outperform it in many ways, and you can get the 10G Ethernet port installed on the Mac Mini. Any thoughts on that, Griffin? Like the Mac Mini versus the Mac Studio, because it kind of seems like for most people the Mac Mini is going to be the one to go for now.
I mean, you get the Mac Mini, and we'll get to the M2 Pro Mac Mini in a moment. But the Mac Mini tops out at the Pro level, and obviously the Mac Studio starts at the Max level. That's what kept me from getting the Mac Studio a year ago when they announced it. Because well, I mean, Max is too much for me. I'm only really a Pro. I'm not a Max.
Max is too much.
So your money is, in my opinion, if you have like a couple $1,000s to spend on a desktop computer, my advice for ordering one of these Mac Minis is to leave the processor and maybe even the memory where it is. Put all of your money towards the internal storage first, because it's the internal storage is going to be faster than anything that you can really plug into it over Thunderbolt or USB-C, like the built-in memory.
Yeah, I hate having external drives too. And the other thing to mention too is it will probably only have one SSD chip if you go for the base storage versus two SSD chips if you go for 512. And if you have 512, Apple runs them in RAID 0, which basically doubles the speed and doubles the longevity, since now you're running to two chips instead of one. And so you're going to take we don't know this for sure yet, but you're probably going to take a big hit, just like with the MacBook Air, if you go for just 256 gigabytes, because you're only going to have one SSD chip instead of two if you have 512 or above.
Exactly. So I'd order the upgraded storage first, then I would upgrade the memory. And even then, I don't really think you have to, because 16 gigabytes isn't the same as 16 gigabytes on an older computer, especially one of the Intel machines, because of the unified memory architecture. The built-in memory is going to be able to swap to the hard drive a lot faster. The access time is a lot slower. So 16 gigabytes of Apple Silicon memory is going to be much better than 16 gigabytes of Intel memory, effectively. Upgrade the memory second. And then if you really have more coins in your pocket, I'd upgrade that CPU and GPU, but that's not really essential. And if you're going to be plugging this thing in over Ethernet at all or ever over the next 5 years, upgrade that 10 gigabyte Ethernet.
Oh man,
it's only $100.
And it's such a pain. It is such a huge pain to upgrade a Mac to do 10G Ethernet. I know, because I just did a massive network upgrade, and I replaced. I got a new NAS from Synology that I'm reviewing, which I'll talk about probably soon. I got a new switch, 10G switch, which I paid for. And I got a new 10G card for the Cult Commander, so I could run 10G Ethernet. But the Mac is tricky. There's not a lot of great 10G docks. In fact, there's almost none. And there's not a lot of good 10G adapters for the Mac. And they're expensive. They're like $300. I think, in fact, the cheapest you're going to get, I think, is probably in the realm of $300. And so for me, I'm like, if you can build in for $100 10G to your Mac, it is absolutely worth it, because it opens up a whole world of connectivity to you that is going to be a real pain in your arse if you don't do now, and you'll future-proof your Mac in some really nice ways. And once you move to 10G and you're transferring stuff over your network at like like up to like 700 gigabytes per second, 800 gigabytes per second, you'll never want to go back, Lewis. It's the future. Don't scoff at 10G, Lewis. Not here.
Well,
not now.
Yeah. That so you get that for I don't even know you get it for a network storage device, huh? It's not for connecting to the internet.
Well, it's not for connecting to the internet yet, because the internet. I mean, I have fiber I have 1G up, 1G down, right? So it's not there yet, but it will be in the next 5 years. You could start seeing. I mean, I think AT&T already has like 2.5G or 5G plans up and down, so it could be for the internet, but it's more for connecting to things on your network quickly. And for me specifically, it's for editing off of a NAS. So like what I wanted to do was move from editing everything locally off my Mac to editing off a NAS. And in order to do that and be able to move 4K video around, you have to have 10G. And so I upgraded everything, and in fact, I just have a story from the other day. I was trying to transfer some files from my NAS to my Mac. And I was like, man, this is taking forever. And I looked, and I was connected via Wi-Fi, and it was doing it like 20 megabytes a second, right? And it said it was going to be like hours to transfer these files over. So I moved my Mac, I plugged it into my my new dock that has 10G built in, and I did it in 30 seconds. Like,
wow.
I mean, it makes a massive difference. 10G makes a massive difference. Now, it does take some work because you have to have 10G everything on your network. Right. You have to have Ethernet cables that can handle 10G, but most can. Even like Cat 5e can handle it in short distances. So I all that to say, if you could spend $100 and future-proof your Mac for 10G, I think it's a no-brainer for me anyway.
That's and if you're like me and you keep your computer for years and years until it literally explodes, I mean, you don't know what your situation is going to be in 8 years from now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you keep your computer a long time, it's worth paying for all the upgrades, all the substantial upgrades that you can. Sorry, Lewis, go ahead.
No, I should say it's interesting to hear that, because I mean, I don't even have a external hard drive. And when I saw that, and I heard you guys saying like, oh, definitely upgrade to the 10. Why? I mean, nobody can get downloads that, but it all makes sense to me. Thank you.
And I should say, like, I presume everyone knows this, but I probably shouldn't. Like, 10G is 1G times 10. So it's
like 10 times better.
It's like literally
10 times faster.
So if you have a 1G connection, which is what most switches have, you can download files at like up to, I don't know, 100 megabytes per second, right? And then if you get 10G, you're getting close to 1 gigabyte per second. It doesn't work out mathematically quite to be like that, but it's close. I mean, like when I'm communicating with the NAS, like I'm communicating it, or I'm transferring files between commonly 700-800 megabytes per second. I mean, it's like, did I say gigabytes per second earlier? I might have. We're not there yet. It's like 700 to 800 megabytes per second up to a gigabyte per second. You never really reach a gigabyte per second, but it makes a massive difference.
Good to know.
Okay, did we already talk about M2 Pro versus M1 Pro Mac Mini, Griffin? I can't remember.
Haven't even gotten there yet.
Okay. We're not even there yet.
Welcome to your first.
We're still on a journey together.
Tangent. It's not even actually a tangent.
It was several tangents actually. It was a snowball of tangents.
But it was on topic.
Is it still a tangent if you're on topic?
I don't think so.
Okay, here's a tangent for you, just real quick.
Here we go. I knew there had to be a tangent.
I always think about this when I'm on this show. I got this bottle here, and it's got this big rubber nipple on it. And does it look weird when I drink out of this big nipple? Because to me, I think no man should suck on a nipple live on the air.
It's fine on the audio podcast if you just quit talking about it.
I think that it would look better if I just unscrewed it like this, right?
There you go. Drink like a man.
And now
not like a baby goat.
Now I can take a swig like a man and not just like a newly birthed goat, like Lewis says.
I mean, the tip of it is black, so like we don't know exactly what's going on over there.
I'm not doing it, Lewis. I know where you're going. I moved several frames ahead of your thoughts, and I know you're asking for Goat Boy. I'm not going to go. You never go full Goat Boy. Not live on air anyway. Sorry, Griffin. What was that?
I mean, the tip of that water bottle is black, so like we don't know exactly what's going on there. I didn't know it was a nipple until you had to bring it up.
Okay, so you didn't even notice. Okay, so there you go. Maybe I'm making too big of a deal about it. But whenever I drink on air, I'm like, I really shouldn't be sucking water out of this nipple. Like I should replace it with something. I mean, hey Lewis, that's what it is. It's a big rubber nipple. Like I should replace it. It's cool when you're at the gym.
Why try to sugarcoat it?
I'm not going to make it seem any
Is it cool when you're at the gym? Is it?
I'm not saying it's cool at the gym. I'm just saying that it's expected that when you're at the gym, you're going to have something with the top on that you can't spill. If I take the top off, actually, that could end up being a bad situation if I accidentally knock it over on my keyboard or something. Now that's a tangent, Lewis. Back to the topic.
That is a tangent.
Back to the topic at hand. M2 Pro versus M2 Mac Mini. Griffin, I pass it to you. I pass the baton to you for your thoughts.
So the M2 Pro Mac Mini effectively takes the place of the computer that everybody forgot existed, the Mac Mini with an Intel i7 that unbelievably you could still buy earlier this week. It has the new M2 Pro chip. As we mentioned, it is the same one out of the MacBook Pro, but potentially with a better, beefier cooling system.
Well, it does way more, Griffin. It does way more.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I
mean, just volumetrically, you've got so much more space to work with in there, so you can put in a beefier, asymmetrical Johnny Ive designed fan.
I don't know if they have a bigger fan and bigger cooling system, or if they just have. I mean, it draws more power, so that the power supply could be what makes it way more. But I'm actually hoping it's both. That well, I guess the power supply doesn't make a difference. They're gonna make sure that thing has the power supply it needs. I'm hoping it's the fan because then it would run cooler and it actually might be more performant than a 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M2 Pro in it. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it wasn't really the case with the Mac Studio versus the MacBook Pro that there was a significant difference in cooling systems. You know, everybody was like, yeah, the Mac Studio has a gigantic cooling system, but it's kind of overkill because I can't even hear the fans even when they are allegedly running. But
yeah.
I mean, we're sort of at the whim of Apple to show any interior pictures of these things before they're released, but they have done no such work in their marketing images.
We won't be seeing anything
because they're just embarrassed of the entry-level Mac Mini being so empty on the inside. But
it's just
they always like to show those interior pictures when they've got like a lot of stuff in there, and it looks like it's really packed with computer inside. So we're not sure. We'll have to wait until the iFixit teardown of some kind.
Yeah, this thing's going to be torn down all sorts of ways once they get released.
But when you get the M2 Pro, you raise the RAM ceiling so you can order it with up to 32 gigabytes of RAM. I was on the configurator. It looks like you only have two options. You can get 16 or just straight double it to 32. I don't believe you have the 24 gigabyte option on the M2 Pro. An advantage is that you get up to 3 displays on the M2 Pro. You can get 2 displays at 6K at 60 hertz over Thunderbolt and up to 4K at 144 hertz over the HDMI connection. I couldn't find anywhere if it is still HDMI 2.0 or 2.1.
It's got to be 2.1, I think, if it's going to go over 120 hertz or even go to 120 hertz.
Yeah, and I presumed as much because it's the MacBook Pro went to HDMI 2.1, but you can never assume these things. Or if you're just a single display person, you can go up to 8K 60 hertz or 4K 240 hertz over HDMI, which is
it's hard to believe that we're even talking about these kinds of refresh rates with an Apple computer. It's they've so resisted HDMI 2.1 for so long. It's kind of crazy that they leapfrogged 144 hertz and have moved to or 120 hertz and have moved to 244 hertz. It's like, whoa, what happened to 120? I would have been cool with 120. But monitors now, I mean, they have such fast refresh rates on monitors now. Like 120 is a year or two ago's technology. Now they're all like 240 plus 500, hertz refresh rates. It's crazy how fast they're getting. Oh, Dave, yeah. I can't. Dave saying, "Oh, baby," that's what I'm talking about. That refresh rate. Sorry, go ahead, Griffin. I cut you off with the "Oh, baby." That was rude.
Oh, you're good. I need to give you your space to "Oh, baby" when appropriate. So, I believe Apple says the entry level Mac Mini only does one external display, but I think there's like some trick you can do where you plug in some certain kind of adapter and you can get 2 displays out of it.
Okay.
I don't know enough details.
Yeah,
about
it says
that
one display up to 6K 60 hertz on Thunderbolt or 4K 60 hertz over HDMI. So I mean that's a pretty massive difference between the M2 and the M2 Pro. I just think I know the M2 Pro is a lot more expensive. I mean obviously, but it really does make the Mac Mini Pro that we've always talked about. And the M2 Mac Mini is fine as a basic productivity computer, but if you want it to actually be a crazy powerful video editing machine and you want to have multiple displays and stuff, it's like you got to go M2 Pro. You've got to go M2 Pro. And if you want to spec it more than 2 terabytes of SSD storage, they also make you go to M2 Pro. So if you want more than 2 terabytes, which I think 2 terabytes is kind of the sweet spot, honestly, but if you need more, then you got to go M2 Pro, and then you get the extra 2 Thunderbolt ports too. So that'd be the way I would go. Which way are you going?
And you only have the
Griffin?
one chance to buy the storage when you configure it.
Right.
I mean, you can always plug in an external hard drive, but it's never going to be as fast as what it can access inside the computer. So,
okay, we got iCave Dave in the chat. He's saying base Mac Mini is 2 displays, 1 HDMI and 1 USB-C. So can it do both at the same time? I can't confirm that. I can either confirm or deny, but we're
I mean, even with the old M1 Mac Mini, there was some trick where I think if you plug in like a Thunderbolt dock thing into one of the Thunderbolt ports, then you can get 2 displays out of it. But Apple never officially said that. But yeah, of course, that didn't stop any of like the PC manufacturers from making fun of them for it. But I believe there was a trick to get 2 displays out of the old product.
Well, we got iCave Dave. He's saying no hacks required. On the M1 2, you could do 1 HDMI and 1 USB-C. So,
okay.
So there you go. So you can do 2 displays. I'm going to take you at your word, iCave Dave. If you're wrong, I'll hunt you down and we'll have words. I'll send Lewis to your house with that ring. Normally only imprinted on Cult of Mac writers' foreheads, but he might make an exception in your case. If you mislead me here on the show. All right. So which one are you getting here, Griffin? What's the verdict?
Ooh, M2 Pro. Absolutely.
I had a feeling you're going to say that. Man, that thing's going to be a beast for you. I mean, and do you think you'll keep it for another 8 years?
Well, I had about the money in hand a few years ago in 2020, but then they announced their Apple Silicon transition. So I was like, oh, well, I got to wait for them to announce the computer I want here. And then they announced the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini, that I, in retrospect, definitely should have bought. But I got hung up on the fact that it had that 16 gigabyte RAM limit. And it's like, well, if I'm buying a new computer, I want everything to be an upgrade. I don't want to get the same amount of RAM that I already have. So then I kept waiting. Then a year later, they bring out the Pro level chip, but then they don't bring it to the desktop. I mean, they brought the Max level chip to the Mac Studio, but it's like, I don't know if I need that much. So here we are.
This might be the best
waiting
selection
game.
of Macs that we've ever had, honestly.
It's
like
wonderful.
there's just they always have nerfed their Macs in specific ways that would be deal breakers for me. Especially the Mac Mini. I mean, the GPU they put in the Intel version was just like terrible, anemic, and I just feel like they have been not doing that as much in the new versions of all the different Macs. Like you can get stuff that's cheap but also powerful. You can get stuff that's crazy powerful as well if you want to put down the money. And there's just something for everyone. And I don't really feel like they're not nerfing things in any like big marquee ways in these current generations of Macs. These really are. I mean, I think you'd honestly be super happy with an M2 Mac Mini. And I know there are a lot of people that use the M1 Mac Mini for video editing and content creation, and they loved it. And it's honestly all that most people would need. And the fact that you can get a machine like that for like, if you increase the storage, which I would recommend for like $600 or $700, is just a crazy good deal if you already have a keyboard and a display.
It really highlights kind of how weirdly inadequate their laptop lineup is, and that they're a top computing manufacturer and they effectively only make like 3 markedly different laptops at like 3 different screen sizes. I feel like there's so much more room for diversity there. And if you had asked me like 3 years ago what their lineup would be right now, I would think, oh, well, in the future, because everybody's buying laptops and nobody cares about desktop computers anymore, they'll probably have like post Apple Silicon transition, like 2 desktop Macs and then like 8 different laptops. But here we are with the situation we're in. I'm happy. And, their sales are up, so you can't argue with that. But it's weird to me that they don't have as many laptops.
Well, give it some time. I think we've got some new, more impressive laptops on the way very soon. The MacBook Pro included in that, but also the 15-inch MacBook Air that we have talked about, which I think is going to be like the perfect laptop for most people. Hey, real quick, before we move on to the real news of the week, let me give a quick thank you to all of you for supporting cultcloth.co. I always like to bring it up when new products come out because you're getting yourself a new Mac Mini. You want to keep it sparkling clean, a new MacBook Pro maybe. There's just no way to keep your technology, your glasses, your camera, your lenses, all your sensitive equipment and your technology in sparkling clean condition than Colt Cloth. Even now when I use my Colt Cloth, I'm like, I can't believe how well these things work. I mean, even the ones that I have, which are old, they clean so well. When you wipe it across your technology, your glass, your TV, they leave nothing behind but sparkling glass and metal. And I always like to mention our Colt Cloth Duo, which is our cloth with a dual fiber design. It's got short fibers on one side, long fibers on the other. So it's great for cleaning all sorts of stuff, your keyboards, but also your screens, the external body of your phone or your MacBook Pro. And it's made with, Colt Cloth is made with a special fiber that goes through this process that breaks down the external surface, which creates cracks along the fiber, which dramatically increases its cleaning power because that's how microfiber works. It's like the denser the weave, the better cleaning power it has because it has more loops to grab stuff. But then Colt Cloth also has the addition of like the cracks in the fiber, which also dramatically increases the cleaning power. I honestly don't think anything works better than Colt Cloth. And if you haven't grabbed some yet, you can score yourself not one but 2 free carry cloths with any order, $20 plus. And the Colt Cloth or the carry cloth is great if you want to keep something with you. It's smaller, it's lighter. It's perfect for your sunglasses, your glasses, your iPhone on the go. And unlike virtually all other cleaning cloths, ours actually go and fit your entire palm. Like all the ones you get are like little puny Alex E. Heath hand-sized cloths, Lewis. And then you ripen your whatever, and oh, whoops, now you've smudged your glasses because your big, nasty, sweaty hand slid across it. You ran out of cloth. And not with Colt Cloth. No, sir. We got you covered. Your whole hand is literally covered with a Colt Cloth. And if it's Alex E. Heath hands, it's like 2 to 3 times of coverage. You could literally wrap it around your hand 3 or 4 times. cultcloth.co, cultcloth.co. If you want to grab some Colt Cloth for yourself and use the code cultcast at checkout to get your not 1 but 2 free carry cloths with orders $20 plus. Look, let me tell you, this deal, it's not lasting forever, Lewis. We can't just keep giving away stuff, Lewis. Eventually, we got to make some money. I can't just give everything away, you know? So if you want to take advantage of this deal, you better act fast because it could be gone. By the time you get there, it might be gone. I might just turn it off. This is too crazy.
It's so easy to update the website, what with Squarespace and all.
It is hosted on Squarespace.
It's a change.
And that's actually true. I go in there, 2 minutes, boom, gone.
Yeah.
Discount gone forever.
Disappeared.
So you better act fast. Let's see here. Before we move on, any other last words on the Mac Mini before we move into the real story of the week, which is the HomePods, the beautiful, luscious stereo HomePods.
You basically can't go wrong. Basically, with anything you order, anyhow, which way you order that Mac Mini, it's going to be a good computer.
Yep, I agree with that. This is a really great lineup of new Macs, and the Mac Mini obviously being the shining pearl. If you have been waiting for one, man, this is a great computer to buy. Even I was thinking, like, maybe I should buy one. I was like, no, I tried it with the Mac Studio. I don't need it. I need portability. Okay, let's talk about the big ones, Lewis. I can't wait to get my hand on this big stereo pair, Lewis. I am excited. I can hardly believe the day is here. We've talked about this forever, and we were never sure it was going to happen, but it sure did seem like Apple was not giving up on HomePods. They kept releasing updates, and I have to admit, I love these new HomePods immediately. Like, are they exactly what I was hoping for? Maybe not. But I'm just happy they're back. Now, I do find it odd they're back at the exact same price. Does that not seem a little strange to you, Lewis?
The whole thing is kind of weird. It's like, well, what corners did they cut to get it in at the same price?
What corners did they cut? Indeed. I don't know, man. I mean, so I've pre-ordered 2.
Wow, bold move. White or midnight?
I got midnight because I already own the white ones, and I love the white ones, but they are stain magnets. I have to say, like, my kids are always touching them, and so I was like, and plus I'm gonna be doing a bunch of new YouTube content. So if you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, oh yeah, it's coming back, baby. Oh yeah, it's coming. I'll be back. Those HomePod videos are what put me on the map, Lewis, and I accidentally took a 2-year break from YouTube. I never actually
accidentally took a 2-year break.
It was, you know what it was, Lewis? It was the Amazon business that I built. I'm not going to go over the whole story, but that Amazon thing like literally consumed me, and I'm still doing it, but I scaled it way back because I was like, this is out of control, and Amazon became a nightmare to deal with. Oh my gosh, I'm giving myself PTSD just talking about it. But I'll be doing a video, several videos, probably many videos on the new HomePods because I'm very excited for them. So let's just talk about these, okay? So same price. We thought they were going to come in cheaper. They didn't. I think Apple's play here was, let's reduce the price that it costs us to manufacture these, so we're making more money on them, and it also gives us some flexibility to have sales. So from what we can tell, what are the differences between the new HomePods and the older HomePods? Oh, look at them. Look at them there, Lewis. Aren't those beautiful? Whew, baby. So I think probably the main difference that I've seen so far is the original HomePod has 7 Apple custom designed tweeters. The new HomePod has 5, and I don't know if they're custom designed. I presume they are. So there's 2 fewer tweeters, and there's also 2 fewer microphones. I think the original HomePod had a 6 microphone array for listening to audio around your room and also for Siri, and the new one has 4. So they've clearly cut costs in some ways. Now, I was talking to Vadim from Max Tech, and he's the eternal optimist. He's like, well, maybe they removed the extra tweeters because they don't need them anymore because they made the new ones sound much better. And I was like, you know what, Vadim, that's certainly within the realm of possibility, and I hope that he's right. I really do. But this has the aroma, the unsavory aroma of cost cutting. And so there's part of me that is a little concerned that the new HomePods are actually not going to sound as good as the old HomePods. Now, I could be totally off base. I could be wrong. That may not be true at all. We're going to have to test them when we get them. But it does seem hard for me to understand. It does seem hard for me to understand. It seems hard for me to understand, Lewis, that
like so many things,
a speaker with 2 fewer tweeters could sound better than one with 2 more tweeters. I mean, you've got the golden ears. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the first thing I thought. Is like, is this going to have the same kind of, awesome kind of surround sound magic that the original has, right? Because now there's 2 fewer little tweeters.
Yeah.
And the microphone thing, I actually thought maybe that would be a benefit because maybe, she who shall not be named would not trigger every time I mention her name, trying to use her on my phone or my watch or any other thing. Continues to this day. I cannot make it not hear it on the HomePod because it's located centrally in my house and it's got the best ears you've ever heard or seen. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, my first thought was like, I bet they don't sound as good. And when you said you ordered some, I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do? You're going to put them in, replace your old ones?
Well,
are you going to set them up a different place?
I'm going to test them, right? So yeah. I'm gonna use some. So I finally got a TV out here in Cult Command, which I'm going to be using for tests and video games and that type of thing. So I'll have 2 places where I can put the HomePods, or have them set up in a room. And I'm also going to put them in the same room and literally do tests. And I'll probably use my my $1,000 microphone to record the differences. I don't know if people will be able to tell the difference, but I will be doing that. And then also through the power of my Jim Carrey level facial expressions, I'll be reacting to the differences in sound as I hear them in an upcoming video. and just making my own determination. Like, do these sound better, or do they sound worse, or do they sound the same? I think it's going to be marginally worse. I don't think it's going to be much worse, but I do think it's going to be slightly less magical. Again, I could be totally wrong. I'm basing that purely on a number of tweeters that are going to be available in the speaker, but speaker technology gets better. The other thing I wanted to point out is on the HomePod page, if I can find it, Apple doesn't say anything about these being custom designed tweeters. Whereas with the original HomePod, they literally said Apple designed tweeters. And on the HomePod page for the new HomePods, they just say array of fine horn-loaded tweeters. Now, you know that I like my tweeters horn-loaded. That's something that goes without saying. But they don't say anything about Apple designed. Now, maybe they are Apple designed. They just didn't say anything. That's possible.
Huh.
But I thought that was an interesting distinction. I'm like, did they just buy off-the-shelf parts? That doesn't really seem like it's Apple style. So I ordered 2 at midnight. They'll be here on February 3rd. And I got a little discount on them, so that helped. Definitely helped. And I always appreciate our listeners and viewers when they reach out to me and say, hey, man, I got a little discount. I can hook you up. I always appreciate that. It makes it a little bit easier to buy 2 of these and do tests and stuff. But, I mean, just as far as enthusiasm, excitement level, I'm double diamonds. I'm back to double diamonds. I didn't think it was possible without reconstructive surgery when I heard the news, but I just couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier. You all know my love for HomePods. I just think it's one of Apple's best products ever. And these sitting in front of your TV in stereo pairs are going to be one of the best soundbar experiences that you can have. Now, the one thing I do hope they fix, Lewis, and you mentioned this ages ago, I hope that they made them louder. That was the prime complaint. You said they sounded a little shrill on the high end.
Right, and that actually made me think maybe the 5 tweeters might sound a little less shrill.
So maybe they dialed it back because they made them sound better.
I mean,
I'll buy that.
It's possible. I think if anything that 7 or 5 versus 7 is going to affect the spatial audio capabilities.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
because it's, where's it going? Where's the sound going, right? But who knows? Maybe the original ones had a 30-degree throw angle, and these have a 35, and so it covers the same amount of area. I mean, it literally is impossible to know. I mean, and plus this thing we didn't even go over the specs. I mean, this has a more powerful chip, right? This thing comes with the S7.
Yes, it's the Apple Watch chip.
Yeah, the Apple. Well, the other one, this is from the Apple Watch Series 7. The original one comes with the iPhone 6 chip.
Yeah,
inside. So that's more powerful, right?
I also like that they updated. I mean, you would imagine. I also love that they updated the top display, and they did exactly what I said they were going to do. I mean, did they not? I said
the mini.
They exactly. They just put the mini the mini display. I like it because it has like this ethereal glow. It just like these light sources are just moving underneath it, and it goes from edge to edge on the glass. Whereas the original HomePod, it's like this little weird, it's like quarter-sized light right in the center, and then the rest of the display doesn't move. Yeah. And they basically just moved the design of the Mini to the new HomePod. It's got temperature and humidity sensors in it. It's got Thread support now, so it can extend the reach of smart home products in your home so that they have better signal connection. It's got Matter support now. This is big. This could end up being big, I think, because now you can control anything that supports Matter instead of just HomeKit accessories. And there's like a consortium of companies that are creating the Matter standard. And there's going to be all these devices now that you can buy and use with your Apple devices, and not just HomeKit stuff, which was a really limiting factor. I hope these new HomePods support other music services like Spotify. I mean, that was another major, shot in the foot for Apple. And then of course there will be like the sound quality. What do they really sound like? It's also worth mentioning that you can't stereo pair a new HomePod with an older HomePod. So you have to, if you want to stereo pair, TC needs that profit. You got to buy 2 of them. You're not going to, I already have one, I'll just stereo pair it to the new. No, that's not going to work.
Can you imagine? You're sitting there going, geez, I've been waiting for the upgrade so I can do a stereo pair. And, oh, no, sorry.
Yeah, that's why I'm mentioning it, because I don't want you to get caught trying to figure out why it's not working, because that would be really confusing actually if you bought one and it just didn't work.
Right.
You know, and again, I'm just vision casting here. I could see them allowing you to do full actual room surround sound with 4 of these. I mean, I would be stunned if that wasn't on their radar. I mean, we know TC's an avid listener. I mean, this product is basically exactly what I've described for the last year. And do you know they discontinued the original HomePod in March of 2021? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Can you believe that? It has even, well, I guess it's been like a year and a half. It feels like it's been years and years and years and years.
March of 2021? That's almost
2 years.
That's
I guess,
almost
yeah.
2 years.
But it feels like it's been like 10 years.
Yeah.
It feels like
Well,
it's been forever ago. You know?
It's been a weird couple of years.
Using Spotify with HomePod is so dumb, says Jason Autry. We got the modder. Do we have the mod in here? Can we get a size 12 steel-toed boot right into Jason Autry's keister? Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
I just wish I could actually use Apple Music with my HomePod. That quit working in the last few weeks.
What?
I request something. The only thing it will play is something in my library. It's like stuff in the cloud. It won't do. I've done a little bit of looking into this, and it's like, oh well, if you shut down the HomePod and take it out of the Home app and unpair it and then repair it and I'm like,
no. Did you do a hard reset of your HomePod?
Yes, I did.
You did a hard reset?
Yeah.
And that didn't fix it?
I'm wondering if this is related to the, you know how Apple rolled out that HomeKit upgrade with, I think with, what was it, iOS 16 or 16.1? I can't remember. Anyway.
With the Matter support?
Yeah. It was supposed to add support for Matter, and they rolled it out, and then they very quickly rolled it back. And if you had already made the upgrade, sorry, Charlie, you can't revert.
Sorry.
So I accidentally pressed that button, and things have acted a little different, funny, strange.
Ever since,
just like not quite as good. So I don't know. I'm hoping that supposedly they're going to roll out 16.3 next week, and that supposedly is going to fix that problem. And I'm hoping that then fixes my HomePod, and I don't have to go through that. I mean, I realize it's not that big of a deal, but one thing I don't like doing is unpairing and repairing and rebooting and just spending, a half an hour going through these steps in this particular order and then getting it all set up. And I'm hoping that one software upgrade fixes it, but we'll see.
What are you listening to music on a speaker for?
I know. Can you imagine? It's just insane, isn't it? And my wife was telling me this, and I'm like, what are you? Because I mostly listen to stuff on my AirPods, right? But I try. You could do literally nothing to make the thing play music, play Apple Music. It just won't do it. And like that is my frustrations with Siri are pretty endless, but this is one of the finer moments of stupidity.
I'm surprised the hard reset didn't fix it for you. That generally fixes all of the HomePod problems that I have, but it is annoying when they start having problems, because generally when you start having problems, the only way to fix them is to do a hard reset, take them out of the Home app, and do all that rigmarole, set them up as new, and then they work great again. But I'm hoping some of that stuff is dialed out with this new generation of HomePod. I'm just excited that we live in an era where HomePods are still a thing, and that Apple hasn't given up on them. What is their motivation here? I really don't know. Like, people are wondering why Apple made this move. They're criticizing Apple for, pulling them off the market and then essentially re-releasing the exact same product. Again, the only reason I can think that they did this is because they lowered the price of the HomePod, and so now they're making more money on them, and they can afford to lower the price in sales and that type of thing. It also might be a hobby for them, like Apple TV kind of is and has been for a long time, where it's like they don't really know exactly what they're doing, but they know that people love the product, and the HomePod certainly had a cult following. Like, people love HomePods, and that was evident by the fact that the prices on eBay were skyrocketing when Apple discontinued them, and now all those suckers are stuck with the version 1s. All those people trying to sell their version 1 for $500,
Yeah, well, just wait and see. I mean, I'm a little skeptical these are going to sound as good. I
don't think it's going to matter, though. As long as they sound good, I don't think it matters that they sound as good. I mean, especially with the new features that Apple is adding and the fact that they're going to be focusing on these going forward, I think that as long as they're like, I mean, I hope they're as good or better, but as long as they're like 80, 85%, I just don't think most people are going to care. I mean, especially once they
We'll
hear
see.
that sweet oomph that hits you right in the in the gut when you do a stereo pair of these. Now, the one other thing I wanted to mention, actually, two quick things before we wrap up here. The temperature sensor. This is a really cool feature. I have wanted to control smart plugs in my house based off temperature for ages, but it's very difficult to do because you need to have like some portable temperature or thermostat, which they don't really make. There's a couple made by, I think, Alago, or Elgato. I can't remember who.
Eve.
Eve, thank you. Isn't the Alago Eve? Don't they make Eve products? Yeah, I'm not sure. But the range was really bad, so it didn't really work with automation. And what I want to be able to do is I have like these portable heaters in my kids' rooms, and I want to have them turn off when the room reaches a certain temperature and turn back on when the temperature drops. And I've just been unable to do it. And now I'm like, oh, so we have temperature and humidity in the new HomePods, and they also are going to be activating the temperature and humidity sensor in the HomePod Mini, which if you have a HomePod Mini, yes, that hardware is built in. It's just been turned off this whole time. And Apple is going to be turning them on in the iOS 16.3 update. In fact, they have a beta out right now that turns those sensors on and allows you to create automations based off of the temperature, which is pretty cool. I mean, like if you have a need for activating automation in your house based on temperature or humidity, now you can do that, whereas that's something that it was almost impossible to do before. And I love the mesh. I do love that mesh. If I could make myself a suit or maybe some underpants out of that mesh, I would do it. I would do it, Lewis. So,
dear heavens.
I'm just happy. I'm happy to see the HomePod come back. I'm happy to see that Apple's not done with it. I don't care if it's literally the same product at the same price. I really actually don't even care. They've made some incremental upgrades. I'm like, that's really all I needed. And hopefully it sounds beautiful. We'll have to test that. But two of these are going to be such an amazing addition to your living room. If you have a TV and you are looking to get a sound bar, I think these are probably going to be a better fit for most people, and it's probably sound way better than almost all sound bars. Sound bars generally sound like doo-doo, unless you get a really nice one. But even the really nice ones, they don't have that artful, beautiful sound signature that the HomePods have. There's just something magical about the way the HomePods sound. It's like an angel whispering in your ear. It's like,
man,
do you like music? Let me sing to you.
It happened to me again this week. We're watching a show on Apple TV Plus, and I'm like, what is that? Is the microwave beeping, or did you leave something on in the kitchen?
It was the virtualized
and
Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, it was something on the show that sounded like it was coming from 20 feet away to my left.
Yep.
And I was completely convinced, and my wife's like, no, it's on the show.
Yeah.
So here's my question for you,
it's that
Airfog.
Sure, go for it.
Yes, the HomePod sounds wonderful, but here's my question. Does it sound 3 times better than the HomePod Mini? Because here's my beef with their new HomePod lineup. The Mini might sound like, sure. I mean, when the Mini was announced, everybody was saying, yeah, it's a HomePod, and it sounds like 80% as good as the full-size HomePod. And it costs only a third of the price. But now they come out with this new HomePod, and we don't even know how much better it's going to be compared to the old HomePod. But you can still buy that HomePod Mini for only $99. For the price of a full-size HomePod, you can buy a stereo pair of HomePod Minis in one room and a spare HomePod Mini for a different room in the house. And if you're thinking, oh, well, what if I want to buy a stereo pair of full-size HomePods? For the same money, you can buy 3 stereo pairs of HomePod Minis. And sure, it might only sound like 80% as good as the original HomePod, but the new HomePod might only sound like 90% as good as the original HomePod. So I just don't see the value, I guess, that you see. How much better is the, like, really is the HomePod?
A million.
HomePod? Let me answer your question with a question. How much better is a Porsche than a Subaru?
Well, I drive a Prius, so I think you know what answer I'm going to give.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
if you want
the
Prius
of audio.
the Prius of audio is pretty correct. Now, let me ask you this. I see from your image that your hair is slicked back. Was that due to stereo HomePods, or is that just the look that you're going for? Have you heard stereo HomePods in life?
I cannot say that I have.
Okay. I suspected that that's what you were going to say. And I'm being a little cheeky with you here, but I would say that the difference in sound quality is immeasurably better. It's not even the same league. Like two minis, they sound good. Like if you're living in an apartment, I think that would probably be sufficient if you're just watching Netflix or something. But stereo full-size HomePods are transcendent. They are not even in the same league. Like they have the same name, but they're not the same product in any way, shape, or form. Like they have they can virtualize Dolby Atmos. So you're sitting there like Lewis says, and it sounds like something's coming from behind you, and all you have are two HomePods in front of you. So there's that. But beyond that, the difference in bass presence, bass accuracy, the difference in sound quality, I would say is much more than what you've described. Like I wouldn't say a stereo pair of minis are like 80% as good. I'd say they're probably 20% as good. So it's all subjective though. Like you might hear it and you might not agree with me. I guess it just depends on what you're into. But like I reviewed both stereo pairs, the minis and the full size HomePods, and the HomePod minis sound like good speakers, and then the HomePods, the original HomePods, are like beautiful angels singing to you in your living room together in perfect unison and harmony. And it takes you to a whole nother realm of experience. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like not the same thing.
It also depends on what you're using it for, right? I mean, if all you're doing is listening to weather updates or podcasts or something like that, HomePod Mini is fine. I mean, it's not very loud, but it's fine. But yeah, the HomePod, the original HomePod is like, it's actually good enough that it can be, like you can replace a stereo, it sounds like a hi-fi stereo. I mean, I'm sure audiophiles are like, oh, no, it doesn't have the gold-plated this and it doesn't have the this and the that. But for $600, a stereo pair of those sounds really good. And it's really loud. I mean, I have people come over to the house all the time. They're like, wow, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's a HomePod. You can't get one anymore. But they're always like, I want to get those. I want to get those. They sound great. Because they do. They sound good. Like, they sound great for music. They sound great for watching TV, watching movies. You get that thunderous, like, home theater surround sound kind of a situation that HomePod Mini just, it's like Arfan says, completely different ballpark.
And also just the how delicate they can be with sound. They have like a strong but soft presence with low volume audio, and I guess it's like the difference between a good microphone and a bad microphone. It's the way they condition the audio before they release it into the airwaves. They add like this magical presence to it, and this quality that you can't really even describe. It's
tactile. It's almost like you can feel it touching your sides of your ears, right?
It's like, yeah, it's like if you weren't looking and I came up and I just went, Lewis, and I rubbed my hand up and down your ear with like just the tips of my fingers, and it'd give you the goosebumps, and you'd be like, I want to tell him to stop, but that was a nice experience. And now I'm not so sure, and I'm questioning everything. Maybe not like that, but maybe in some ways similar to that. So, but again, I know I've said this 10 times, so here's number 11. Let's see how they sound. I've got a stereo pair on the way, and we'll see what they can do and if they're as good as the HomePods. And if they are, as long as they're close, I'm hoping they're better. That's the hope. But I'd be happy if they were close, as long as they're here. Like if the choice is they're close and present, or just not available at all, I choose close and available for purchase. Because mine's got the issue.
Jeez.
And I'm scared it's gonna go out. And I was like, dude, when this thing goes out, like I'm toast, man. What am I gonna do? I don't want to buy a sound bar. And the other thing I like about the HomePods for TV is you don't have to put them in front of your television. Like I have mine on the sides of my TV. In fact, my new TV doesn't have any space for a sound bar in front of it because it sits directly on this low panel, and it's like you probably have like maybe a half inch between my media console and the actual screen itself. So I can't put speakers in front of it. So they're more versatile. And then the silver bullet. This is what is gonna make everyone go goo goo gaga and start sucking on their thumbs, Lewis. Is Apple adds support for true surround sound. So they say, hey, you like the stereo pair? What about a quad setup? You got 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and now you can do actual surround sound with 4 of them. Now you're looking at like that Sony system that they charge $1,700 for the wireless speakers, and you can do that with your HomePods for $1,000.
It's just almost not even necessary.
Well, I don't think it's necessary, but it would improve the experience, I think, if you could have actual speakers behind you. That would be insane. And there's no reason Apple can't do it. I mean, if they can virtualize Dolby Atmos with 2 speakers, there's no reason why they couldn't do it with 4. They're going to just add actual hardware behind you. That's the dream. And then they add the home woofer or the woofer pod. Give me something magical, Lewis. What's going to be called?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. HomePod.
HomePod Studio.
The HomePod Studio. Then you add the HomePod Studio, and unfortunately, you die in your chair, and your family comes in, and you're just dead. The audio was so transcendent, it actually did transition you from this life into the next, and you die looking squinty as TC with a smile on your face. And I know TC doesn't smile, but you'll have the squint, you'll have the smile, and you'll be in a new realm.
I think they would call it HomePod.
The HomePod Max?
Sub. Or HomePod Sub Max.
That's the next generation.
Pro Sub. I don't know.
The HomePod Pro Max Studio.
Throw a plus in there too for good measure.
And with that, I turn on the music. I think that's it. That's as good as this show is going to get. Thanks to Griffin for joining us. I want to thank all of you for joining us as well. Some of the Cultcast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. New episodes of the Cultcast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for listening, for joining us live. The party continues on Twitter. I'm not going to tell you our handles because we're out of time. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys. Uh-oh, what did I just do? I went full screen. Never go full screen on the sign off. We'll see you guys. Is it working still? Next time. We've only been live for 2 hours, Lewis.
Didn't even get to the secret sensor in the HomePod Mini.
Oh, we did. I literally talked about that for 5 minutes.
Oh, I must have been zoned out.
That's it, Lewis. I'm replacing you with Griffin. Griffin cares about what I say.
I'll send him
clearly
the MacBook Air in one of those vanilla envelopes, and he can use that.
Send him your computer, and then I want you to put the neck iron around your neck and go to the Cultimac writing cage. That's where you'll live from now on. All right, everyone.
It's on the way.
Have a great weekend. I'm hurtling towards the end stream button as we speak. That was a awkward close to the show, I know. We're going to make the next one better. How come everyone shows up right as we're signing off, Liz? It's a mystery to me. Could it be because this is the best part of the show?
They love the music.
That might be it. All right. Bye, y'all. Oh, it's still going. There we go. Now it's ending. Okay.